俺がないない、絶対ないって。
まあねえか。あるわけねえよな。
Alright guys, let's get out of the way. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment if you like. So we know that Akira is running away from the zombies, but what is everyone else doing? I mean, this Ouran High School Host Club are not running from the zombies, they're running their business still, and they're trying to get this girl to cheer up. Who gives a fuck about a zombie? We can kill them right here. Obviously he's lying. Also, there seems to be a very big age gap between them. How old is she and how old is he? But that doesn't really matter right now, the world's ending. Hell, he might not even be part of the host club. I think he's part of a Yakuza instead. But it doesn't matter because he's trying to protect his job and the people in the host club. So he goes outside and he fights the same women that would go inside the host club, but they're zombies now. I mean, by now you can really tell that most of Japan is being turned to zombies. But you know who's not having a bad day with zombies? Akira, this man. He's just chilling, coasting and just riding that bike. He has for sure figured out how to beat this game, and he's on a different level than everyone else. Except his beard game, because he sucks at growing a mustache or a beard or anything like that. So he ends up shaving it off and crossing off his list. That fucking sucked. But he figures out that his phone gets messages again because the internet's back. Plus, that's even better because he wanted to jack off, but he didn't have any internet. And all the messages he's getting is from friends that said, hey, I don't have a job anymore because of this whole zombie pandemic. When do you want to hang out? And this man must have a million friends because that shit's blowing up. But he has to stretch first and just let the day happen to get the morning out of the way. But he finds out the internet is only on his phone because the internet's really bad in Japan right now. Don't you sometimes feel that you just want some crows to go away so you want to do this to them? And he's looking through his messages and one of them particularly stands out because it's Kencho, which is the guy who told him to quit his job. And he was friends with him a long time ago. And he's probably thinking, what the fuck happened to that guy? Well, this is what's happened to him. It went from a probably awesome night to one of the worst nights he could probably have. I mean, just look at the people that are in this hotel. I wonder what they were doing in there. So he's been trapped in this hotel room for over 3 days and he's only had water. And his supplies are very limited at this point. He was very fortunate to be in the bondage room because at least he can tie that bitch down. And he finds himself almost dying because he's really starving, he hasn't talked to anyone in 3 days, and the stress is probably getting to him, so he's about to faint. So when he closes his eyes, he imagines for some reason a really old friend he hasn't talked to in a while. Look, I get that they're friends and they're in the same sport, but it feels like he's never heard a joke. Who laughs for that fucking long? If you've laughed for that long, leave a comment down below. I mean, this guy must be the biggest comedian of the year, and unfucking believable. Right when he's thinking about him, as he's fainting, he calls him and he picks up. Wouldn't you be so tired you can't even pick up the call? Plus, because they have nothing to do all day, he doesn't mind driving half an hour to an hour away from where he lives. I can't even imagine the streets being empty because it's so damn packed. Also, the zombies don't seem to be chasing him even though they have no brain. So he tells us about Kencho and how cool he was and how much riz he had. And even though he went to all these parties because he was popular, he was still his best friend. So after college he became a really big real estate agent that made tons of money. Of course he made a lot of money because he's very good at communicating and he sells things because clearly he's wearing an expensive watch and drinking a full glass of beer. And none of that stuff is cheap. And then he also dates models, so he's gonna need a lot of cha-ching for that. And Akira didn't give a fuck. He's been working so damn hard and they've been treating him like shit. And who knows how much he made? He could have just made pennies. Because he doesn't live in a luxurious home and he doesn't have that much stuff in his house anyways, except it's full of trash. So since there's a big difference between the two, he says, why don't you just quit your job? He also notices that he looks like shit, he doesn't get paid well, and he goes home looking miserable. But even though they did end on good terms, he's still gonna go and save him on his motorcycle. Oh, and if you cared, they did end up saving Tamikisuo. And Akira is a genius because the way that he saves everyone is he tapes a football onto the horn of a car, and now it just makes a bunch of noise that all the zombies want to come to. So Akira sneaks into the Hotel Z and he finds Kencho trying to escape, being very scared. And Akira apologizes to Kencho because he was such an asshole to him and he knew that he should have quit his job too. He didn't have the balls or the stones for that, and so he's very sorry. And because he did this, this happens. It's a good thing they're in sports because they run that shit faster than someone trying to tackle them on the field. And also, this guy's holding down a bunch of zombies just by his strength until they cover the door with a bunch of heavy stuff. So they both know that the zombies are going to push open that door even though there's a lot of heavy stuff on there. So what are they going to do? They're going to jump over one building to the next even though it's pretty far and they might fall. So Akira's friend doesn't think that they could actually make it, but Akira shows him that it's not that far. He jumps over, sure he's bleeding on the face, but that's just a scratch. I mean, it's now or die, right? So how many of you would actually jump over? Leave a comment down below. So his friend decides to say, I'd rather die than jump over and maybe fall. So he confesses a deep, dark secret to him. And the truth is, he also did enjoy his job. He said every day he had to go and smile to people and lie to them. He would trick them into bad contracts. Dating models, having dinner with athletes and things like that, he didn't like those at all. It didn't make him happy. And he also knew he was acting like a jerk because his life really sucked to him. And so he ends up saying, and the truth is that this businessman, all he wanted to do was to become a stand-up comedian. I did not see that coming. And so Akira tells him to quit his job and become a stand-up comedian instead. But he's gonna have to jump, so he ends up jumping right after all the zombies are following him, and for some reason when he jumps, he wanted to be one with nature, so he rips his clothes off and now he's super naked. I hope he doesn't become that comedic character just because he wants to be a stand-up comedian. And you think that he would fly even better because he took his clothes off, but nope, he misses. And Akira's laughing like he's never heard a joke again, and this time he might actually die because Akira's not looking and he won't help him. But at the last minute when he's about to fall, Akira grabs him, and he pulls him up, but for some reason, something's wrong. Akira thinks it's a zombie bite, but nope, he ended up scraping his nuts. So that night they let their clothes dry off because they're wet, and they're both sitting there naked drinking beer. And they spend all night talking and making jokes for stand-up comedy, and finally can cross off hanging out with a friend. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. If you're curious on what other seasonal anime there are, I've made videos on other seasonal anime, so I'll link the playlist down below. Alright, peace.